Let's start with President Trump's visit to the CIA. That's an organization that you know very well. An aide to John Brennan, who was the CIA director until Friday, put out an extraordinary statement. It said, quote, "Former CIA Director Brennan is deeply saddened and angered at Donald Trump's despicable display of self-aggrandizement in front of the CIA's memorial wall of agency heroes. Brennan says that Trump should be ashamed of himself." You're the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. What did you make of the speech and of Brennan's response to it?
Well, I found out a few days ago that Donald Trump was planning on going to the agency to swear in Mike Pompeo because there had been an agreement in the Senate that all the national security folks would be approved on the first day, and that didn't happen. So I think it's important to remember that Donald Trump had scheduled that in advance in order to swear in Mike Pompeo. Well, his schedule was already planned. I don't think he wanted to change his schedule, so he went out there, met with the CIA. I think he was briefed, and the agents that were there, the CIA employees, they were excited to be there. And in fact, I spoke to a few last night who I thought maybe were there, so I wanted to get their opinion on what they thought. And they said we didn't even get a chance to go because it sold out so quickly.
Yeah, there was a lottery for seats there. Like 400 people got seats.
Yeah.
A lot of people wanted to go.
And he was received well. So I think that you're going to see at the highest level of the past administration, at that level, I think Donald Trump had a lot of problems with, and I don't blame him for having a lot of problems. There were a lot of leaks.
So you think that John Brennan's response and also just how he's comported himself, you have an issue with it?
Well, look, the former director is entitled to his own opinion. But the fact remains that there were a lot of leaks that occurred over the course of the last 60 to 90 days before this election that most people can attribute back to somewhere within either the Obama administration directly or the intelligence community. But what people are not talking about, which I thought Donald Trump said some things that were really important yesterday. He showed an understanding that the CIA is the tip of the spear. When the CIA gets things right, fewer people will die. He called radical Islamic terrorists. He said that they're going to go out and kill the jihadists around the world. They're going to be eliminated. Those were major statements that he made yesterday that nobody's covering.
And what do you make, just to note, just for our viewers, we believe that Mike Pompeo will be voted on in the Senate to be CIA director tomorrow evening, Monday evening, and it looks as though he will clear, he will be confirmed. Mm-hmm. What do you make of the criticism that standing in front of the memorial wall, talking about crowd sizes, that was inappropriate?
Look, Donald Trump is a citizen politician. He's really enjoying what he's doing. He's going to take the media on every single day. He's never been in politics, and I think you're going to see more of this. And I've seen him on the campaign trail. He was just having a good time. Matter of fact, this past week, inauguration week, he was showing up to events that he wasn't even scheduled to be at. I was at a lunch. It was supposed to be a small lunch, and he stayed for 45 minutes and talked and had a good time. And so, I think he was just out there to show support for the agency. And of course, like Donald Trump often does, he's a very smart guy, and he starts to talk about a lot of different things and has fun.
Just to bring this up one more time, because I don't think this point of view has been adequately reflected in the public, especially by people like you, who are part of the intelligence community in a sense, being chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. There is this feud, and has been this feud, between leaders of the intelligence community in the Obama administration and President Trump. And you think that President Trump in some ways has gotten a bad rap on it, that some of these leaders have been unfair to him?
Well, we don't know where the leaks came from.
I broke the story, and I can tell you John Brennan had nothing to do with it.
Well, but there were a lot of leaks that came, and it's not just on the last story. I mean, this goes back for 90 days. And so, look, we'll, as we always do, we'll look into the leaks. We'll see if we find something. And, who knows?